Okay, let's take a look at this shape right here. This is pretty easy because it's got very straight sides, but it does flare out a little bit, has a little bit of shape to it. Kind of nice. Let's see what we can do. All right, so once again, I've got to kind of decide, is this a smaller cup or is it a bigger cup? Which size of clay am I going to use? I'll go for a slightly larger one on this one as well. Okay, I've got that hole nice and centered and deep enough. Which I'm stretching the clay this way as I pinch it. Now the clay is getting about as thin as it can get down here, but I've got all this clay to work with up here. You see, and so that's easier to work out the bottom first rather than the top. It's probably the opposite of what you would do instinctively, but it's actually, if you think about it, much better because now I don't have to get my hands down here as much. I can work with this up here where it's right there in front of me and easier. That's how I get it to go up a little bit instead of just out. Okay, I've been pushing the bottom this way a little bit and using my palm to brace it. Okay, are we getting close to the shape? Yeah, actually, not too bad. Okay, now I'll start working on it on the table a little bit. Okay, and here I don't really have to push into the bottom much. I can just start rolling the edges. I'm not applying very much pressure at all. It's very, very light. Mostly what I'm doing is I'm feeling the high and the low spots in here and sort of subtly filling in the low spots, which is just by its very nature taking out the high spots because, well, you know, it's got to come from somewhere, right? So it's going to take it from the high, it's going to push it into the low, very little pressure at all. Now careful, this is getting a little bit floppy, and so this is where it could go really wide, really flare out wide. So my hand here is actually kind of squeezing that, keeping it in line, keeping that shape as I roll it. Because if I lose control, if I let it just flop down like that, that's where it's going to get wider real fast. Okay, instead of continuing to roll it on the table, I'm afraid that it would get kind of flared out. It'd get too wide. The clay is kind of wet, you know, so it's kind of soft. So instead, I'll just concentrate on nothing. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I can just, if I was to concentrate on anything still at this point, it would just be smoothing it while I support it, just to refine that shape a little bit. But I think that we're pretty darn close to having the shape that we want. Not too bad. A little bit more flared than our drawing, so we could either flare it out more at the bottom or try and get this to go in at the top. I think it would be easier to flare it out a little bit at the bottom. So I'll just take and just at the bottom, give it a little bit of pressure as I roll it. Not much. Not much. There. Just very, very subtly pushing out from the inside. Is that getting better? Let's see. Straightening it up. Yeah, that's got it. Pretty close at least.